But there's an important fact that completely flies in the face of the white girls are taking all our men argument, and that is the overwhelming majority of black men are in relationships with black women, 94% in fact. So if only 6 out of every 100 black men is in a relationship with a non-black woman, what's the problem? I'll tell you. That 6% is the top 6%. In other words, the best black men are choosing not to be in relationships with black women, and that's their problem. Black women don't care about the Pookies and Ray Rays of the world. Those guys are a dime a dozen. They care even less for the brothers that make a decent living, have good credit, and don't have any baby mamas. But when men like Young Jeezy, Tay Diggs, and other high-value, wealthy men forego relationships with black women for their fair-skinned competition, they lose their minds.
Less than a day and a half to get over $1,000 worth of products with the purchase of a CME virtual ticket. The entire Womanese audio series with over 600 translations. My 7-hour Build a Better Girlfriend course that teaches you step-by-step how to build a solid relationship like mine, how to master the game, and much more. This is well over 300 hours of solid gold, so what are you waiting for? Time is running out to completely change your entire dating life. Link in description and up above.
In the 18-year history of ABC's franchise dating show The Bachelor, there has never been a black bachelor until now. ABC recently announced to the world that 28-year-old Matt James will be the Bachelor in season 25. A while back, I predicted that there would never be a black bachelor.
So Devin and I are watching The Bachelor, and when it all ended, she turned to me, she says, "Has there ever been a black bachelor?" And I said, I just kind of laughed. I was like, no. There will never be a black bachelor. She couldn't believe it. She scrolled through all the seasons. No, there's never been a black bachelor, a black male bachelor. And listen, there's never going to be a black male bachelor. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
I was wrong, but for the wrong reasons. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and share. Events in Minneapolis on May 25th was more or less the catalyst in this unprecedented decision by ABC and every other network out there. As cancel culture facilitated the demise of popular police shows like Live PD and Cops, the world appeared to be ready to see a black bachelor as a lead in the most popular dating show ever, and there is legitimate buzz around this season's mystery man. Matt James, who was originally cast as a suitor for Claire Crawley in The Bachelorette, is a 28-year-old North Carolina native who now makes his home in the NYC. A former Division I football standout at Wake Forest, James had a couple of brief stints with the Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints before moving to Pittsburgh for a job with PNC Bank. Shortly after that, he moved to New York City and now works as a research analyst for a commercial real estate company. James is tall, dark and handsome, has a great job in the big city, and he loves working with kids. If that's not all, his best friend is none other than Bachelor Nation heartthrob Tyler Cameron, who finished as the first runner-up on Hannah Brown's season. James appears to be a man who has it all, which made him an easy choice for ABC to cast him as the man in demand. But there are 3 very uncomfortable truths that most people are probably well aware of, but not willing to talk about out loud. Now, to be fair, given the current climate, I can hardly blame anyone, but that's not going to stop me from giving it to you raw and real, so here we go. The number one truth about The Bachelor nobody wants to talk about is that Matt James is going to piss off a lot of black women. Interracial relationships have always been a controversial subject, at least in America. But let's face it, the interracial relationships that get discussed the most are those between black men and white women. And one of the main reasons they're such a hot-button topic is because black women positively hate it when high-value black men choose non-black women to be their girlfriends and wives, again, most notably white women. But there's an important fact that completely flies in the face of the white girls are taking all our men argument, and that is the overwhelming majority of black men are in relationships with black women, 94% in fact. So if only 6 out of every 100 black men is in a relationship with a non-black woman, what's the problem? I'll tell you. That 6% is the top 6%. In other words, the best black men are choosing not to be in relationships with black women, and that's their problem. Black women don't care about the Pookies and Ray Rays of the world. Those guys are a dime a dozen. They care even less for the brothers that make a decent living, have good credit, and don't have any baby mamas. But when men like Young Jeezy, Tay Diggs, and other high-value, wealthy men forego relationships with black women for their fair-skinned competition, they lose their minds. Don't believe me? Check this out. When billionaire Robert Smith announced that he was paying off all student debt for the entire class of 2019 at Morehouse College, a historically black university, the black community said that his $34 million pledge was tainted because he was married to a white woman. A good-looking white woman at that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a thing. The black community at large, which is run mostly by black women, shame and disparage black men who have relationships with non-black women. Interestingly enough, the ABC show Scandal, which revolves around a romantic relationship between a black woman and a white man, was very popular among black women. They were also noticeably silent when former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay, who was the first black Bachelorette, chose a non-black man in the end. They also didn't raise a big stink about the fact that only 11 of the 31 suitors during her season were black. This double standard will be applied to Matt James when he starts to whittle down his choices. Heaven forbid he choose a non-black woman in the end. He will be all but exiled from the black community. The second uncomfortable truth about The Bachelor people are afraid to talk about out loud is that the white women who compete will be considered tainted by white men. Yes, this is also a thing. When a white man finds out his white wife or girlfriend had biblical relations with a black man, he loses his mind. She's ruined, he thinks. But his adverse reaction is not because of racism, at least not most of the time. It's about the adult film industry and the media for the most part. Let me explain. Every black male adult film actor, without exception, has an exceptionally large... Now, the same could be said about their white counterparts, which is why they're in the business in the first place. But the black male actors have these gargantuan that make even the most impressive-looking white bananas look comparatively small. If any man, black or white, consumes enough adult film entertainment with black actors, he's going to internalize this as the norm and subconsciously assume that every black man has a huge... Add that to the fact that white men are routinely portrayed in movies and television as latent or inferior beta males, while black men are portrayed as these static alphas. I can see why some white guys might hit the eject button if he finds out his pretty little fair-skinned companion has been to the dark side. He's thinking of her being ravaged by this hulking, muscular super alpha with an eggplant emoji the size of a baseball bat. This is exactly why a lot of white men will not date white women who have dated black men. Very few would admit that out loud, but a lot of them really do feel this way. So when white men watch Matt James swapping spit with pretty white women, those girls are all but discarded from their lists. Don't believe me? After Lindsey Vonn dated Tiger Woods, white guys stayed away. Only black men would date her exclusively, and now she's engaged to NHL star PK Subban, who is black. Then there's Amber Rose. You think white guys are lining up to date her given her dating history? Look, I don't make the rules, but facts are facts. And at the end of the day, every white contestant on Matt James' season of The Bachelor will find it very difficult to find white men who will date or marry them. That's a difficult truth to acknowledge for these girls, but it is indeed the truth. And finally, the third and probably most uncomfortable truth about The Bachelor Season 25 is that a lot of the women will likely segregate themselves along racial lines. Black women and white women get along just fine for the most part, but when competing for something that black women inherently feel is rightfully theirs, like a black man, those pleasantries go right out the window. Let's keep it 100 here, guys. Black women secretly resent white girls, and for good reasons. White girls are treated like royalty even when they act like spoiled brats. They get preferential treatment, and of course, they can date and marry pretty much any man they want. White women in America live the best lives of any class of human on the planet, and when they decide to date, marry, or compete for a black man, a high-value black man, black women take exception. We see this in our daily lives. Any black man like myself who has dated white women has no doubt experienced the dirty looks we get from sisters when we stroll by with our blonde-haired, blue-eyed girlfriends. These women glare at us with the fury of 1,000 suns. So while the contestants will be singing Kumbaya the first night, the alliances will uncomfortably be drawn along racial lines. Think about this scenario. A black contestant takes Matt aside to get some one-on-one time with him before he is interrupted by a white girl. That is going to ruffle the feathers of every melanated woman in the Western Hemisphere, including the ones in the Bachelor Mansion. Better yet, what if it comes down to Matt having to choose between a white woman and a black woman? Can you imagine the kind of buzz that's gonna get? Now we might think, this is just a dating show on TV. This doesn't matter. It's just a fantasy. Most of the time, you'd be right. But Matt James represents the uncomfortable truth about relations between black men and black women. He represents the small group of elite black men who have decided to pursue relationships outside their race, and his choice could prove to be a watershed moment in the black community, for better or worse. So what are your thoughts on this season of The Bachelor? Let me know in the comments down below. And for the brothers out there who have dated non-black women, what are your experiences? Gentlemen, I am here for the chaos and the shenanigans. The racial component itself will make this the most interesting season to date, and I can't wait to break this season down and give the kind of perspective that men really need to see and hear, not the perspective the media wants you to buy into. And you will see a live breakdown of this new Bachelor season only on Sharpe Stream for less than the price of a Popeye's chicken sandwich. These breakdowns are raw and uncut, like the BBC, and not the one on TV. I've also broken down dating shows like Love is Blind and 90 Day Fiancé Live. If you want access to these live daily streams, my archive, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Donovan Sharpe. The link is in the description.